and we are honored today to have a special guest with us. Let's do this. Yes, today is Magna Gopal. She's acting also as a messenger, as a guest. As a guest at the Herald Speakers Bureau today, she's also a mentor to the community. She is an internationally renowned coach, speaker, and dancer who translates her 20 plus years of experience as a leader in the salsa dance industry into meaningful lessons to help people improve their mindsets, movements, communication skills, and relationships. The presentation today, How to Engage Your Audience, you'll learn how to craft your speeches and presentations to create a meaningful connection with your audience and leave a lasting impression. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Magna Gopal. Take it
Thank
away.
you. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. I would like to say thank you, Julian, for that lovely introduction, as well as the sound effects, which I've never had when I've been introduced before. I'm really excited to give this workshop. I have not done a presentation quite like this before, but this is definitely the direction where I want to go with coaching. And I think our presentations and our speeches are really, really important. We sometimes don't realize that. So this is going to be an interactive workshop. So I would like you to be close to your texting so you can add your answers into the chat or raise your hand so I can see you, especially if your webcam is on. So to start, I would like to start by asking all of you why you're attending this particular workshop or why you think this topic is important or relevant. And I know that some of you are my friends, so I know why you're here, but think about this topic. Let's actually get engaged. So Lewis is curious, yeah? Why do you think that the topic of engaging your audience is important or relevant? Throw it into the chat. Only curiosity, yeah? Mm-hmm.
You want me to put it in the chat?
Okay. Yes, please. Yeah.
About why I'm attending to this meeting.
Why you think this topic's important? Yes. Julian said you wanted to touch their hearts. Christina says I was invited. Nice. That's always a good reason.
Okay. What's your name?
Magna.
Magna. Okay. That's Gopal. Okay. Got it. I'm
Paulina,
going to send it to you.
Sure. Thank you, Timothy. Paulina says it's a useful skill, especially with remote work and Zoom meetings. And Illa, to engage the audience. Yes, of course. The very obvious. These are all great answers. As speakers and presenters, we have ideas that we want to share, but we want those ideas to stick. We want to be able to connect with our audience versus just monotonously read through some form of a script. Now, before we get to becoming better presenters, let's put ourselves in the audience's shoes. So everyone added their reasons as to why they believe this topic is important. But can you think of a time when you were listening to a speech or a presentation and all you kept doing was zoning out? You can raise your hand if your video is on, or you can put your a yes into chat. Whenever you're watching a presentation or any type of speech, have you ever had the experience of zoning out? Everybody. Yeah, exactly. I can think of so many such moments, and most of them are actually from school. I had a lot of experiences with teachers like that, but there's also a lot of exceptions with that. And one of them that I'd like to tell you about was my last year in university. I had 150% course load. I had a part-time job and I was hooked on salsa dancing. And part of my international relations program, I got a chance to enroll in this course called The History of Espionage. Yes, it was as interesting as it sounds. This was one of my favorite courses, and the material was very interesting. But in addition to that, our professor used to bring in all of these recurring guest speakers from the government sector, from the military sector, people who worked in intelligence, which made the content a lot more engaging. But one thing I remember was the stark difference between my professor and the guest speakers. My professor was an expert at this and became a teacher in this topic because he studied it. So he was doing basically what we were there to do. We were there to study the material. The guest speakers, on the other hand, had lived it in real life. They had actually experienced being in the field. Yet the only person I ever really remembered was my professor because of how passionately he presented the content. With the guest speakers, if it wasn't for the fact that we had quizzes on their presentations, I would have tuned out. And this is the problem. The guests knew that what they were providing was valuable information. And to them, the facts were enough. And sure, if I'm reading a textbook, the facts might be just enough. Or if I'm being debriefed for a mission, the facts might just be enough. But when you're speaking to people who do not need to be invested, like a group of students, for example, your message needs to be more than just facts. And you can see the impact of a good presenter. Even after more than 15 years, I remember that course. I remember my professor. I remember the projects that I did for that course. And I owe my investment in that course, as well as my A+, despite that crazy course load, I owe that to the enthusiasm with which my professor taught the material and the way he engaged all of us as students. And this should be our goal as presenters, as speakers. Present our ideas with conviction and enthusiasm, be memorable in our message and as people, and inspire our audience to meaningful action. That being said, let's discuss some of the tools we can use to connect with the audience. So back to all of you. In chat only, so not with the microphone off, but throw it into chat. What are some ways that you think you could connect with the audience? Throw it into chat. Asking questions, yep. Tone. Paulina said engage with questions. Gerardo said the same. Christina, tone. Raphael, body language. Nettie, relating a personal story, telling a story. Wade, energy. Excellent. These are all some of the tools in my toolbox as well. So this is fantastic that we're kind of already on the same page. That's excellent. Friendliness, directing, Lewis said, friendliness, directing questions at the speaker. Excellent. All right. So what I have done for today's webinar is I've grouped these tools into 5 categories. The 5 categories are delivery, the how versus the what, the personalization, invitation, application and relatability, and finally, action. Okay, so we've got delivery, personalization, invitation, application, and action. And before we go into detail into the sub techniques in these categories, I would like to ask all of you to think of a topic that you would like to give a presentation on. You can throw it into chat, a speech or a presentation, or write it down next to you. You don't even have to throw that in there if you like. But I would like you to think about a topic because as we go through each of these points, I want you to keep that in mind so that you can see how you might be able to apply these techniques to your own presentations. Go ahead and throw them into chat whenever you're ready. And while you guys do that, I am going to start with our first category, which is delivery. The first 3 elements of delivery are not as prominent with online meetings as they are in-person meetings, but they're still important. And the first one is packaging. Appearance does matter, right? Now, of course, when we move everything online, maybe only half of your appearance matters, right? But when you're actually presenting in person, appearance does matter. How you show up, the effort that you put into your appearance does make a difference in how people will interact with you. So you want to take that time and put a little effort into that. You can use appearance to your advantage. So you don't have to show up in a black tie affair outfit, a gala outfit, just to command attention. But maybe you're a little eccentric. Maybe you want to do something that's cultural. I know one of my friends who's also a professor always gives her presentations, big presentations in a sari. She's from India. So she always puts on a very traditional garb, and it instantly gets you focused on that person. So how you're dressing makes a difference. However, you want to make sure that it doesn't detract from your message, because that also tends to happen sometimes where we are like, okay, I want to wow, like razzle and dazzle my audience, but all they're focusing on is what you're wearing or what you look like. And they're no longer focusing on your message. A perfect example of that online would be the cat lawyer. I don't know if anyone saw that whole viral video of the lawyer who had a cat filter. You can't focus on what he's saying, right? All you can say is, oh my God, there's a attacking cat on the screen. So you don't want to detract from your message. The other point that Rafael had mentioned earlier was body language. And this is also equally important. And the key to body language and presence is posture and conviction. Even though I'm sitting at a desk, I could be presenting like this to all of you, or I could be presenting like this, hunched over. If I'm hunched over and I'm not that convicted in my message, it's hard for you to join me. So you want to make sure that you're always with a good posture. And if it comes to online meetings, maybe you need to adjust your setup. Maybe you need to adjust your camera to make sure it allows you to sit nice and tall, right? And in terms of presence, our presence is a result of our conviction. If you are about to give a speech on something, it's probably something that you're passionate about, something that you believe in, something that you think others should learn about and believe in as well. And if you come at your topic and your presentation with that idea that you have something of value to offer and you own it and you don't shy away from it, you'll find that your presence is a lot more demanding and commanding of attention. The third, I believe someone mentioned it in our chat, I can't remember who, was eye contact, or is eye contact rather. This is, again, slightly difficult when it comes to online because I would rather, scroll my screen for everyone's faces and see how engaged you all are versus looking at the tiny little dot, which I can barely see on my laptop as a camera. But when it comes to in-person meetings, especially, eye contact is everything. It makes things personal. And the beauty of eye contact is when it's initiated, it's often reciprocated. If you look at someone and you're talking to them, most likely they will start to engage with you. Even someone who happens to be scrolling and looking through their notes or looking in their phone, if you make that moment of connection with them in eyes while you're talking to them, they will put their phone down. They will stop everything else they're doing and pay attention to you. So if you're giving a presentation, especially when you're doing it in a public space with people in front of you, try to circle through the room. Try to find different people to connect with as you go through your presentation. Now, this next one is something that's probably common to all of my fellow Toastmasters, because we do have projects on this one: vocal variety. What is vocal variety? It is a change in tone. And I think Irina, was it, who said that? Tone, or no, Christina who mentioned that. Vocal variety allows us to say the same things, the same words, but in a different way to create a different impact. For example, if I said to all of you, I'm trying to get rid of tone, wouldn't it be amazing if we could all fly? Pretty amazing question to ponder, but not the way I said it. But if I adjusted my tone and said, wouldn't it be amazing if we could all fly? Same words, different tone, different intonation. That shows you different ways to connect with the audience just by changing the way you're presenting the same exact idea, right? So what you want to do when you're speaking or when you're rehearsing your speeches is get comfortable with your range, practice with your range. And finally, when it comes to delivery, is emote. Emotions. Emotions are so important. And they're almost everything that we decide that we want to talk about, we're passionate about it, right? The topics that we pick are something that appeal to us. Either they are things that inspire us or things that upset us, things that we want to change, things that we want to build, things that we want to grow. right? But once we craft our speech, for some reason, we get all into the facts and the details and the numbers, and we lose that emotional connection, that passion that we have to our speeches. So if you're happy about something that you're about to say, smile. If there's something that you're thinking about that makes you ponder, or something that upsets you, furrow your brows, right? Let your emotion show up. Let your passion for your topic come loose, let loose when you're actually speaking, because emotions are powerful and they're contagious. You know, when you see somebody else smile, you want to smile with them. When you see someone get upset, you want to get upset with them. When you see someone cry, it breaks your heart too. Right? So if you find ways to actually use the emotion, the passion, the reason why you got into presenting that idea in the first place, all of a sudden, you can get a lot of people on board. Now, the next category we got is personalization. Can you guess what is one of the most personal things to me? Throw it into chat.
Always the question.
This is a question. What do you think is the most personal thing to me?
Oh, to me. Okay.
To me, Magna.
All right.
Boom. Names. Yes. Salsa dancing, Pauline. Oh, okay. Well, I know Pauline is someone I know then. And so is Christina, I guess. If anyone who puts dance, I have a feeling that you guys came because I invited you to this chat. But names. Yes. Raphael just said names. One of the most personal things to each of us is our names. And it's one of the easiest ways to engage someone just by using their names. Now, of course, if you are talking to a massive audience, or if you don't have people in front of you, it's a little bit harder, but we can see how I can engage people with names just by adding it into the chat. Whenever you present an idea, whenever you contribute to this chat, I can use your name to acknowledge you as a person, not just as a random audience member, but as a person, as you, Raphael, as you, Sabrina, as you, Christina, right? And this brings this general webinar, this general workshop, into a much more personal realm. And if you don't feel comfortable doing it on the fly, you can always script it, right? I wrote out my webinar, word for word first. And now it's a little bit easier once I go through rehearsing it that I can speak it more freely. But script it if you don't feel comfortable going on the fly. Let yourself write that stuff down and say, I know Julian is going to be there. He's going to be hosting the meeting. And when I say thank you, instead of just saying thank you generally, I'm going to say thank you, Julian. Right? The next element of personalization is pronouns. I'm going to split that into two. So first, pronouns are going to be you and your. It's sometimes difficult for us to use those terms because we don't want to point a finger. But it's a great way to actually draw in your audience. When crafting your speech, think about the pronouns that you use and try to make it personal with your audience. Now, I could say that same message. Let me just show you a more generic way of saying that. I could say, when crafting a speech, it's important to use pronouns that connect with the audience. Yes, it is the same message. It is important when crafting a speech to use pronouns that connect with the audience, but what do you care? Versus me saying, when crafting your speech, it's important for you to use pronouns that connect with your audience. All of a sudden, that same message makes more sense because yes, I want to make my speech connect with my audience, right? So same message, different wording equals a different connection. And you and your are very powerful words that command attention. And I'll give you a perfect example. And I dare you to deny that you have done this, okay? If you're walking on the street and someone randomly yells, "Hey, you dropped something," tell me you don't turn around and look, right? Even if you know you have nothing to drop, right? You got no pockets, you got nothing in your hands, you're just walking. You will still turn around to see, what did you drop? Because you and your, even if they're not speaking to us, we kind of think that they are. So you want to try and include that into the speech that you're giving. The other pronouns that you want to adapt is we, us, and our. These build a sense of community and inclusiveness. They take your outsider audience member and bring them into your inner circle. And it's no longer about me giving a presentation to you. It's about us doing this together? And how do we get through this, right? As human beings, we're communal by nature, and we are more likely to invest in something that includes us than something that's separate from us. So once you've drafted your presentation, go ahead and list out all your facts, list out what you want to say, but then review it and see where you can substitute these pronouns instead to make it a little bit more inclusive. Okay. Also, there are some questions that are popping up into the chat. I would request that you guys keep your questions. We'll be doing a little Q&A at the end of this presentation because I'm timed here. So I want to make sure that I don't distract from the time of my presentation. The next part. Does anyone remember what the next category is? Let's see how well you guys were paying attention in the first part. Throw it into chat.
What did you want me to put on chat?
The next category. There's 5 categories. The next one. Invite. Exactly, Gerardo. Louis, you jumped ahead. Invitations. How do we invite people to participate in our presentation? One is tell a story. A couple of you did mention this in the very beginning. Oh, wow. That's one challenge with chat, which I've just realized is once a lot of people chat and put messages into chat, it's hard to find the ones that you're looking for. But one way is to tell a story, leading with, let me tell you a story, or I remember when, invites your audience to sit and listen. And storytelling is a really common act, something that we do quite often. I mean, we do this with our friends where we, call out one of our friends and say, hey, you won't believe what happened. Let me tell you. Right. And as soon as you say something like that, the person's like, oh, I'm so curious. What happened? Tell me your story. Right. They're invested. So storytelling is a powerful way to connect. And it's also a way that we, as audience members, can imagine ourselves as you, the storyteller. We can imagine ourselves in your shoes, live through your experience, or at the very least, imagine that we are a friend that was accompanying you through your entire experience. So it invites your audience to get involved. Another way, instead of inviting your audience into your story, you can get them to create their own. Tell them to ponder something. Ask your audience, imagine if, or can you picture, or do you ever wonder? These prompts allow your audience to get creative and to get active and to get involved with you as you sit there and ponder the same thing. Now they're also creating their own imagery. Right? Now, can anyone guess of another way to invite people to participate? I think some of you might have already added this earlier. So I'm just going to go off of that, which is inspiration is coming up, Christina, is questions. Right? Ask a question. Equally important, if it's not a rhetorical question, is wait for an answer. There are many times that there are presenters who have questions to ask the audience. They say, how's everyone doing? Okay, great. And they just go right into their presentation. If you have a question that requires an answer, wait for your audience to answer. People are uncomfortable with silence in general. So if you wait and you don't fill that silence, someone will. Very useful, especially when you are in an in-person meeting. A little bit harder online because you don't know what they're actually looking at on their screen or whatever. So it might be a little bit harder to get them there. But in general, if you ask a question, wait for that answer. And the benefit of asking questions, even rhetorical questions, even if only one person ends up answering, is that the question makes everybody think. And again, boom, you've invited your audience to participate. Now, the last 2 forms that I want to include in the invitation are related to questions. And the first part is getting your audience to identify with the problem. Getting them to make it personal. How do you do this? Simplest way is ask them why they think the topic is important, which is how I led this entire presentation. Why do you think this is important? What do you think is a problem out there? And once you identify with the problem, you're invested in finding a solution. So now you're like, all right, well, if this is a problem, I agree that this is a problem. I can identify with this problem. Now I'm going to pay closer attention to what solution this person is going to provide for me. Right? So that's one way that you can involve by asking a question that's very specific. The follow up to that question is getting your audience to contribute to the solution, which is what we all did when you all answered the question, what is your suggestion for a way to connect with the audience? Right? Now, what this allows you to do is brainstorm with each other. Right? When I ask you, what do you think you would do? And I agree, yes, those are some of the things that I would do. Here are some more things that I would do to also find a solution to this problem. It's our presentation now. Yes, it's mine, I'm leading it, but it's our presentation because you're contributing to the solution and you feel like you have now added value to this moment, right? Now you're invested in making sure the entire presentation goes successfully. So you will stay invested, you will be paying attention, right? Now, the fourth category is application and relatability. And this answers the audience's question of, how does this relate to me? How can I apply this to my life? And some of you had mentioned saying personal experience, talking about a story. And personal experience is fantastic. This is one of the best ways to show the application of it, because not everyone has had the same experience in life, of course. So we want to make sure we find something that relates to them. And sometimes the topics that we're presenting don't connect with the audience, right? And those are the moments where you want to find your experience with the topic versus the topic itself to try and connect. So, for example, maybe you have never given a speech or a presentation. So the idea of an audience, like a public audience, is foreign to you. That concept is foreign to you. But perhaps you were able to relate to my personal experience with regards to my professors, my teachers. We've all had teachers, right? We've all sat down in class and we've had teachers that could engage us and teachers that kind of made us zone out. So in this way, you can see the importance of the topic, not from the foreign audience, but rather you being the audience member and seeing the importance of having a good presenter, and you wondering when you might be in that same position, being a good presenter. Another element of using your speech and making it applicable is through analogies, right? Analogies are a fantastic way to make a topic relatable, also to break the ice and touch on things that are sometimes really complicated. A couple of months ago, I gave a live chat on the topic of rejection, and I compared our preference for foods to our connections with people, to show how rejecting something or someone doesn't change the intrinsic value of that person or that thing. Right? Talking about preferences in food is something that we all have, even if we don't want to admit to having a certain preference for people. And this allowed me to breach that topic, that allowed me to make that lesson more applicable and allowed me to approach a touchy subject without really offending anyone. And finally, we have in the same fourth category of applications is definitions. Definitions are another reason we either connect or we don't connect. In the case of today's topic, maybe the term audience, again, doesn't resonate with you because you have no ambitions of speaking publicly. You don't care about presenting to anybody. But what if we redefine the term audience to include anyone listening to you speak and present an idea? Your boss, your kids, your significant other, your friends. Now, all of a sudden, audience takes on new meaning, and engaging with your audience becomes important to you, and it's applicable to you. And finally, that brings me to our last category, which is action. Exactly, job interviews too. Action or call to action. Speeches are presentations of ideas, but ideas are useless if they're just floating around in our head and never implemented. So, as speakers, we want to inspire people to act. So, wherever you can in your speech, you want to think of something you want your audience to do. And whenever you can, invite them to do it, especially at the end of a talk. A call to action is your chance to reconnect, is your chance to instill your audience with a sense of confidence that they are capable of doing something, and encourage them to go out there and do it. Now, the reason I gave this particular webinar, this topic, is because I believe that we all have something of value to offer. When it comes to presenting, however, those ideas, we need to go beyond just the content, just the idea, and think about the connection as well. And today we covered a lot of techniques, and there are many, many, many more out there. And you don't have to apply and incorporate all of them. But see if you can add at least one from each of those sections, those 5 sections. And you'll be surprised how just the effort alone, just focusing on more than just the topic of your speech, just focusing on how can I make the speech something that connects, will already make you a better speaker, will already put you on that path to having more engagement and a better connection with your audience. Thank you for this opportunity to present. I still have a Q&A, so I have that section coming up. So moving on to the Q&A part. I will answer your questions as well. But before I get into your questions, I would like to take it back to the topics that you all picked. You all had, at the very beginning, selected a topic that you'd like to give a speech on. Who would like to volunteer for my first question? I have 3 questions related to this presentation and related to your topic. If you'd like to volunteer, I think you can throw a raised hand, I believe. That's how. Oh, Gerardo? Go ahead.
Yes.
So what's your topic?
In my case, social media. I am I like too much that topic.
Okay.
And well, of course, always is a challenge for especially gathering the attention, even and also when, for example, that you mentioned the live chats or live stream is quite challenging.
So a question with regards to social media. If you were giving a presentation on social media, right? Let's go into the invitation to connect with your audience. What would you have your audience ponder or imagine based on social media? If you're giving a presentation on social media to a group of people and you have the prompt, imagine, or what do you think? What would you have your audience imagine? So this is our chance to take these techniques and apply it directly to the topics that we are interested in presenting. So think of a question. What would you
imagine? How many viewers, followers you can get if you apply certain and so on.
Fantastic. Excellent. Thank you. That's excellent. So next volunteer. 2 more questions.
I'll be a volunteer.
All right, Tim. What's your topic?
You mentioned earlier about how to express your feelings, and what was that topic?
Well, no, I'm asking what is your topic that you would like to present on?
Oh, about getting a job and job interviews, and about crafting your message, and to learn about leadership skills, and to become a better speaker.
Okay, so pick one of those things that you would like to give a presentation on.
Leadership.
Okay. Now let's say with leadership, you're about to give a presentation on leadership. Now, what is a question that you could ask the audience to get them engaged in your presentation?
The only thing I could think of is, how can I become a better leader? Or
okay, that's fantastic. But notice
I can't think of anything else.
No, that's a fantastic question. But notice how you used I. So you focused it on yourself. But what you want to do is you want to get your audience into it. So a better question might be, how can you become a better leader? And the question to ask your audience might be, have you ever thought of how you can be a better leader?
Yeah.
Right? So that's one way to use the form of asking a question to your audience on a topic of leadership that you're presenting on. Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent topic, by the way.
Okay. Now the other thing is, earlier you mentioned something about expressing your feelings and if you're in a situation. What was that topic that was about?
Expressing your feelings was more about the delivery. The very first section of techniques, expressing your feelings, was expressing your emotions. And that's just about being passionate about whatever topic you're speaking about and letting those emotions flow out of you.
Okay, now I'm in a situation, I'm in a dilemma. There's this online game night I've been attending to from Eventbrite, and I'm in a situation because they've been like talking about stuff that I don't like, and I told them I didn't want to go back anymore. But now I got a email from the co-host that she would really miss me if I didn't come back. So how can I express my feelings on that?
There are certain things when it comes to communal activities that you have really two choices. You have ways to influence the community, or you have an option to exit the community and create your own. Right.
Yeah.
So given that you don't like what they're discussing or the way they're talking about things, depending on how many people are engaged in that behavior and how many people think that it's important, your view that you're expressing, you might not be able to change that community. And as much as the host might want you to be a part of it, it might not be possible to change that in a way where that community feels safe to you. So then you have to just think about yourself and say, all right, I don't enjoy this. This doesn't make me feel good, and they're not about to change, so I'm out.
Yeah, so that's what I'm doing
That's what I
now.
would. That's what I would recommend. If you don't mind, I do want to get to the third question. I would like to get another volunteer.
And one more thing I want to say. Not only that, I don't feel that it's right for me, and that it's not the kind of group I should be in.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a simple message you can send. So
Okay.
one more volunteer before we run out of our time for our Q&A. Anyone else who would like to volunteer what they would like to present on? Wade, yes. What's your topic?
The topic could be anything. My question would be.
No. Just tell me the topic. I got a different question for you.
Okay. That would be the importance of knowing the story. I will say it like this: in dance, the importance of knowing the folkloric background of the
Okay.
dance.
All right. So now your question is, what is your call to action? That's your topic of your presentation. What would be your call to action to the audience?
Call to action, that would be.
What would you want your audience to do? When you finish your speech, what would you want your audience to do?
Engage into the.
But how?
Converting them.
What is your direct call to action, right? When you finish your speech, you've just given this great presentation on the importance of the folkloric background of dance. What do you want your audience to do?
Go and do their own. Go and be curious to investigate more on their own. Get them curious.
Yep, that's great. So this is thank you, Wade. This is what I mean is you want to try and find ways to use those same elements, call to action. So if I had given a presentation on the folkloric dance, I would tell my audience, my call to action would be, go out there and get curious. You have no idea how much more there is to this dance than just the moves that you're doing. Learn about it. Find out. So what I would like you to do is look up this author and read this passage, or read this book, or look up this video. Give them something definite to do, right? One of our calls to action in this particular presentation was actually getting all of you involved, right? Getting you to, one of the calls to action is pick a topic, get invested. Let's craft our speeches, craft our presentations. And then this last little element with our Q&A is to get you to see how to use those techniques directly right now, right here, so that you can see how easy it is, right? In fact, in my speech, I would like to say that I pretty much did, I'll show you how seamless it can be, okay? Delivery. I tried to dress up, right? We don't know how I'm dressed from the waist down, but that's not the point. It's the point that this is the part you can see. All right. Second is body language and presence. I have not sat here like this and kind of looked down and talked like this. I have opened up to embrace this small little stage that I have here. Right. Eye contact. I've done my best. I mean, it's a little hard, like I said, because I'm moving around this screen instead. Vocal variety. I haven't spoken monotonously. I've tried to raise my tone when I'm getting excited about things. Emotion, right? These are things that I'm excited about. I want to share that emotion with you. I want to get you excited as well. Personalization. I tried to use people's names. If you submitted a great topic or a suggestion, I added your name to it. I made you a part of this presentation. Everything with you and your, everything with we and us, we can become better speakers. This is a benefit to us, right? Our invitation. I started with telling you guys a story, right? Told you a story about about school, my lecturers in school. I invited you to think about things. Asked you multiple questions throughout this entire presentation. I got you invested in identifying the problem, so you could see why this is important, why we should be here listening, paying attention, and trying to become more engaging speakers. And I got you to contribute to the solution by providing your own suggestions, which happened to be a part of my list. So boom, you're already in this presentation. You are part of the solution. And then application and relatability, personal experience, right? I made that about teachers instead of just about an audience, right? I didn't really use any analogies, but the definition at the very end was to change the definition of the audience to include more than just a random group of public or people at work, but also people that are very personal and very close to us. And then finally, the call to action is not only getting you guys involved here, but also to show you how you can take your message and just start to apply just 3 of these items. Just try and include that into any of your presentations, and you will see that you'll be much more engaging as speakers, and you'll be able to get more impact and ultimately create change in your audience. Get people to act. And that's the goal. Boom, and I also made it into the Q&A time. Thank you, Julian. Does anyone else have any other questions?
You have 3 more minutes or so. Yeah.
Okay.
This is on the screen. There's time for 1 or 2 more questions, I think.
Okay, sure. I do apologize that the chat is really hard to keep track of here because it's just like boom, 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 boom. So Ella, yes.
My challenge is not only the timing of the speech, because I always... My microphone was over my head, not in front of my mouth. So I have a big challenge with the timing, but of my presentation, because I always want to give too much value, and sometimes it's covering the purpose. But what I'm working on a lot, and it's my challenge, is vocal variety. What I heard today, Magna, you have wonderful vocal variety. Do you have any tips or tricks how to, I don't know, hear it or work on it? Because sometimes I feel like I focus on the speech so much and to give the value that I forget about it, and I hear it on the recording after that, not when it's happening.
So start once you write your speech, I would recommend highlighting words, right? And highlight words in different colors. Think of words that are uplifting, amazed, exciting. Think of those words, highlight them with a yellow, right? And then think of words, do ponder. think about something. This is a problem, right? And those words that are kind of dampers, highlight them with a different color. And when you speak, try to intonate up for everything that's got that light color, that happiness, that excitement, and intonate down for everything that makes you want to focus a little bit more deeper, right? And just follow that flow, so that you have visual cues of when to go up and when to go down. Again, it's, for some of us, this might come, what it looks like is natural, but it's not natural. It's just practice, right? The more and more you speak and the more you get comfortable with it, the more you get used to that range that you have, that everybody has, it starts to come more naturally to you. And if you need to have visual cues, so be it. Write it into your speech, all caps or bold for something that needs to be spoken with a lower tone. And then that would help you slowly incorporate that vocal variety into your speech without being like, when am I supposed to do this and do that? Sound good?
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm like remembering with my eyes, so it's a perfect idea for me. Need to try that. Thank you.
You're welcome. And Sabrina asked a question, how do you feel about sarcasm/irony as a call to interaction? You see a lot of that online as a trigger reactions to kickstart engagement and discussions. Personally, I'm okay with sarcasm just because I can dish it out. But you do have to be careful, again, with your audience in terms of what they are able to accept. If you're dealing with, let's say, people who are survivors of abuse, sarcasm might not be the way to engage them, right? If you're dealing with a bunch of comedians, yeah, go for it. Sarcasm might be exactly the way you want to engage them. So you always want to keep your audience in mind and remember that your audience changes. And at the same time, think about what is important to you. The world is not your audience. There are some people that are your audience, and the other people are just other inhabitants of this world. So don't try to cater to everybody. Cater to the people you know this message is going to resonate with. And then adapt your message for the other people. It doesn't mean that you're not going to talk to anyone else. You can still talk to all these different groups of people, but you just have to have different messages for different groups. And on that note, thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Magna. Let's give Magna a big round of applause. Thank you so much for taking time to do this webinar today and to present to the audience here. And this is being recorded, so we'll post it on YouTube, and many other people can watch it as well. Magna, if they have additional questions, how can they contact you later?
You can always contact me through my website, magnagopal.com. I am available for coaching on speaking, mindset, communications, and movement, obviously dance and fitness. So if you ever want to set up a session, you can always do that as well. Also on my YouTube channel, Magna Gopal, you can find a lot of other information on how to connect with people, how to express yourself. So there might be other information out there that you might find useful.
Anything else, Magna, you want to say?
No, that's everything. Thank you to all my friends who made it today. There are a few people from the dance community that had actually joined. So it's such a nice treat to be able to speak about other things other than dance to all of you, and to get to share this new avenue that I'm taking. So thank you for the opportunity, Julian. Thank you, Lewis, for setting all of this up. Thank you to all of you for signing up. Timothy, some great questions. I hope you get a resolution there. And thank you everyone who participated.